Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and this is the home of pure, loose leaf, natural, unflavored teas, so that you're getting what the tea actually is. You're learning what we're here to discover and learn about what teas really are, and that's beyond just aromas and flavors. That's texture, that's aftertaste, that's the full range. So we've got a black tea that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to see how it does in those areas. I'm going to be using a tasting set, which is what this cup is all about here. And let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to get out my cup here. You notice the cup has a little notch there. That's for pouring. We've got a black tea. This is actually a first flush Darjeeling. So I get out my regular old teaspoon, and I'm going to get a scoop out, and I'm going to sprinkle out enough to really coat the bottom of this cup, so that you cannot see the bottom of the cup. That looks good. You can't really see, a little speck here and there of white from the bottom of the cup, but for the most part, that's covered. And my water's been brought to a boil. It's been cooling for about a minute and a half, so it's still got plenty of heat to it. Now, as I'm pouring in, I'm making sure that the leaves get tucked under the surface of the water, swirling around there, so it's not just resting on the top there. So let's set that water out of the way now. Put my lid on. My lid's got a hole in it for the air to flow as it pours, so I want to make sure I put that hole over towards the lid, the handle rather. Set that right there. And let's talk a little bit about this tea as it steeps. This is from Canton Tea Company. This is their Darjeeling First Flush. It is from a particular estate as well. This is the Giddapahar estate. A 10 gram sample like this one is available for $2.25. As I said, this is from the Giddapahar estate. It was harvested spring of 2010. And there are different, how should I say, in India, you can have teas that are the Asamaka, the more Indian-based or Indian origin tea plant. On the other hand, you have China-based or tea bushes that were originally from China that were carried over to the Darjeeling region. And this is of that second kind. This is from a China bush. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this tea, give it a range of tastes, and see how it goes. First thing we're going to do is kind of get an indication or get some clues from the dry leaf here and the aromas from the dry leaf. One more time, because I'm getting a range of things. What I often find is that, especially some first flushes, I get more of a kind of a pungent, spicy almost element, not hot spicy, but there's spices in there, and so in that sense, what I'm getting here is a little bit of something that is kind of sweet yet spicy, kind of like a allspice type note. At the same time, I'm still getting some kind of another aspect that you often find is baked type, biscuity type, bready type notes, and there is something kind of toasty coming out here as well. Underneath and with that, there's just a hint of something kind of, again, something a little bit fruity, but still baked. So it's, my first reaction was cherry cobbler. There's a little bit of stone fruitiness in there, but it's been put in the oven, it's been cooked, it's like a cherry cobbler type. So it's got the fruit, it's got the heat, the toasty. It's got a little bit of spice, like an allspice or clove or something in there going on. So those were the dominant components in the dry leaf that I picked up. Just going to take a scoop out and kind of look at these leaves. I recently looked at a second flush, which had larger, fuller size leaves. This first flush, on the other hand, is more of leaf portions. They're smaller, they're chopped up in appearance. But you're also getting some brighter greens because it's a first flush. It's going to be lighter, it's going to be milder in some of its aroma and flavor profiles. It's going to be more, it can get lighter in colors, and by that I mean kind of brighter greens in colors. You are getting some of the browns as well, but you're not getting as a lot of the rust reds. I'm not picking up any kind of silvery tips either. So this is partly because this is an earlier harvest. The leaves they're not larger fully or more mature than the second flush. These are less mature, of course. And also the way it was processed, it's been chopped, you're having less full-size leaf, it's been chopped so that it kind of rushed some of that oxidation process. Just kind of looking at a glance, I do see a little bit more actually in the bag here of little fuzzy type tips than I did in this particular spoonful, although I would say that makes up 15% on average of the total component of this leaf. So that's takes care of our dry leaf, so that yeah, we can go on now. Kind of pour this. Look at the wet leaf. Actually, I'm going to pour into here. No, I'm not. I'm going to pour into my tasting cup, because this, if you were to get a tasting set, something to play around with, this is what it comes with. The three components: the bowl, the cup, and the lid. And to pour, you can do it one-handed, of course, and just do it like so. Now you see, by letting that, putting that hole there at the top, it allows you the air to flow through and get a smoother pour, so it doesn't dribble out. Makes less of a mess if you don't hit the edge quite that easily. Also, great size proportions here, so you can just kind of rest the cup on there. I'm going to turn this upside down, hold the lid in place, and shake out those last few drops. That looks good. Okay. Let's set this aside for just a moment. No, actually I am going to, just like last time, I'm going to pour this right in so that we can look at that a little sooner. And set that aside. Let's go ahead and talk about our wet leaf now. Alright, still biscuity, still kind of toasty biscuit type notes coming off. Secondly, underneath that, I got more of a kind of effervescent, cooling, menthol, bismuth type. So it does have some kind of that brightness to it. Those are the two main components. There is something kind of jammy about this, like a light, faint grape jam jelly on there. But again, that's milder. Let's go ahead and kind of look at the wet leaf a little more closely as well. Shake this out, get those loosened up. I could feel them. They're stuck to the side of the cup, of course. You could feel them loosen up and shake off and fall onto the lid here. Now, we had those we had some greens like I talked about. We had some, I had some dark brown, seal brown, gray brown type colors. But inside, once they've all been steeped, a lot of these leaves have become a brighter green color. They're brighter than like an olive drab type color. They've got a little bit more brightness to them than that. And you can kind of pick out, and the tips stand out just a little bit more, just like, for example, here I got two tips just caught here between my fingers. Again, leaf portions or sections of leaf. You don't see a lot of indication of oxidation taking place. I mean, you don't get a lot of, you do get you get some duller, yellower colors along the edges or sides of the leaf, kind of working their way, I'd say halfway in towards the middle vein of the leaf there. You do see a little specks of reddish where the oxidation has taken place on some of these leaves. But a lot of color can actually also come from one depending on various degrees of oxidation. Some were oxidized more and had more of a reddish color, but the heating, the toasting element, the firing of this tea also can add to the darkness of color as well. So that takes care of our wet leaf. Let's go ahead now and talk a little bit about the liquor. Color-wise, it's a fairly light caramel. Again, it's got a light amber. It's not as orange as an amber, so it's more like I said, a very light amber or light caramel type color. A little bit more of that muscat grape type smell coming out now, combined with that bismuth or menthol type wintergreen type cooling aspect. Let's give it a shot here. I can't help but bring up comparisons to the second flush from Canton tea that I looked at last week. This one's got more stringency to it. It's got more of a drying feel about it. Combine that with any of the grape muscat type tastes are lighter, much more milder I should say. With a little bit more of like I said, that menthol, bismuth, that cooling feel about it. Okay, not overly bitter or harsh, although like I said, it is more astringent. So it's more of a moderate level of puckery or astringent component there. Again, the color looks milder, lighter, so that's part of it as well. And the aftertaste, I'm still getting some of the sweetness. The astringency has really faded or toned back to zero. And you're getting more, I'm getting more of a sweetness. Sweetness is more akin to, again, some kind of, like a cherry, something like that you've just finished swallowing. So there's a little bit of that fruit residue still in your mouth. It's creating a little bit of tart, it's creating a little bit of sweet, and that's what's happening here. As this tea cools, there is more of that menthol, bismuth cooling, and it comes out more prominently towards the front as this tea cools. So, looking at this tea as a whole, as a first flush, I don't want to compare first flush to second flush, but I do want to say overall, as first flushes go, probably one of the, it's more nuanced. It's got more of the menthol with a little bit of the muscat type taste that is associated with a second flush. So I'd say it's rounded. I mean, it's varied. It's nuanced in that sense. It has a lot of those components to it. Like I said, a little bit more stringency as compared to some other first flushes that I've experienced. So looking at this tea as a whole, I would give this tea an 88. Something to consider if you are looking for that brisker bite, especially like in a morning cup of tea. This may be something to consider. So come back and join me at Walker Tea Review, and we'll look at, like I said, true teas with no additional flavors, and really exploring the full realm of tea itself.